Flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Got to read that one. You never get it right.
We have some recognitions. Rarely, in the time that I've been here, which is now going on 3 years, rarely have we had board members who, for one reason or another, have had to leave. But it's happened. Josh Acevedo, who was a board member, is now a city council member. So he now serves us and he serves the whole community, representing his district on city council. Israel Irabali was a good guy. Israel was the head of El Paso Independent School District. He had a hard time showing up to meetings, but he would always call me crying and say that he was sorry that he couldn't make it to a meeting. I want to just real quickly acknowledge that Sergio Coronado is here as well. And so we missed him. And Walter Miller was here when I got here. I think he may have been the chair right before you. So Walter was actually the chair. I don't know if he's here today. I don't think he is. No, but Walter was a mentor, I think, both to Ed and to me and probably to you, Lori, and the time that he was here and the last time you were here. So Walter served very, very well, represented really Horizon, but more importantly, the entire Central Appraisal District area. And his focus was always on values, on land values and the values of his expanding district, which was in that Horizon area, but all over the city. So we miss these people. We miss Walter. We have great memories of him. Josh Acevedo, I have great memories of him, although he and I are still friends and we still see each other. And Israel Bali, I don't see. But also, we had one elected person who just got elected last year. And unfortunately, or fortunately for her, and very unfortunately for us, she ascended to a better place. She went to a better position in working with the city of El Paso. And in doing so, she could no longer serve on our board, whether elected or appointed, when you are an employee of the city of El Paso or any one of our entities, right? So we do want to recognize, one, that she was brave enough to put her name out there to get herself elected, and two, and I will tell you, from the time she was put on this board until the time where she had to leave, she didn't miss a meeting. She came, she was attentive, and she was always engaged, and she's here with her husband and her kids. And before we do anything, I'd like to acknowledge Melody Jimenez. Let me read you this little gift that we're going to give, all of us are giving to her. And it says, the El Paso Central Appraisal District is presenting to Melody Jimenez and her children, and maybe her husband, in recognition of and with sincere appreciation for your dedicated and outstanding service to the community and the citizens of El Paso County as a member of the El Paso Board of Directors of the El Paso Central Appraisal District, and that's July 2024 through January of 2025, and it's given by us, the Board of Directors of the El Paso Central Appraisal District. And we have a photographer who is taking your picture, and you can get up also and be part of that picture. Oh, you can come up too. Thank you, Melody. We appreciate it.
Robert, would you come take a picture with her and her family?
Absolutely. Did you get a lollipop?
Why don't you go, here, we'll take a picture. The way we can have it on our.
We want to have it in our archives.
There are no lollipops, there's 2 Twix. Almond joy.
I said the magic word. All right, guys.
Slim Jim.
All right. Again, thank you.
Space here in the middle.
Thank you for putting yourself out there.
Gordon?
Thank you for the service you continue.
Now there's too many of us.
There's too many. I know, we're getting too many board members showing.
That's a good thing, huh?
It is.
Where do you want it?
I love it. Beautiful.
All right, the rest of the board will join me. We have some certificates we'd like to give out to staff members who have completed anniversaries with us. So I have businesses, most of us have businesses. Somebody who's been with us for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, that's somebody to be acknowledged. We have people who've been here 20, my secretary's been with me 26 years now. She's part of the family. And so that's kind of what we're about to do now. There are people who've been with us for long, you're gonna, well, Imelda, is Imelda here?
Well done.
My Imelda, who I lost one time in Boston. We took a cab in Boston and they dropped us off in the middle of the street. You wouldn't even take us back to the hotel. So Imelda M. Osborne. Imelda has been here 30 years. So this is a certificate of appreciation to Imelda M. Osborne for being stuck on the streets of Boston and in recognition of 30 years of dedicated service to the El Paso School District. You've done that too, believe me, the El Paso Central, whatever we are. Appraisal District. Thank you, Imelda.
Thank you, Imelda. Can you get everybody?
Last two at the end, just squeeze in a little.
Kind of squeeze in, or get behind her, or
Thank you. How could you not be
double
the-
up a
Yeah,
little
there you
bit.
go. So we're gonna do it again. The ride's gonna take us all the way. Okay, thanks, Imelda. Daniel Bentley. We got to know Daniel really well at the last couple of opportunities we've had to put together out of town. Daniel cares so much for this district, for this city. This is, you talk about dedication. This is a guy who's now been here 25 years. So we thank Daniel Bentley in recognition of 25 years of dedicated service to the El Paso Central Appraisal District. You should have Diane up here too. I mean, that's who you serve, not us.
I see him every day.
I want to see you again.
He's not even 25 years old yet. Guadalupe! Guadalupe Borjon. Guadalupe has been with the El Paso Central Appraisal District for 25 years. Seems like yesterday. Thank you for your service. This is in recognition of 25 years of dedicated service to the El Paso Central Appraisal District. Guadalupe! And finally, Expedition. He always worries like it is. Pronounce his name right or wrong. Everybody else gets it wrong. Expedition. Expedition. Make sure you Expedition. M. Vargas, 20 years of dedicated service to the citizens of El Paso County, and we thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Board members, if I can, y'all go ahead and sit down, but I'd like to say a few words about our staff. Imelda Osborne started out as an appraiser, and she's now one of our top folks in our litigation department. We call it our value department. And she is the assistant manager there, dealing with all of the lawsuits and the mediations and everything that we have, and her knowledge of here at the appraisal district and the history of the appraisal district has really come in very helpful, very handy, and we don't want to see her go anywhere. So we really appreciate her and the work she does on getting lawsuits settled and trying to get that done in a speedy manner. Danny Bentley has grown with us. He's now the manager of our Deeds and Exemptions Department. Anybody who has a question about anything regarding the tax code on deeds or exemptions, he can answer it. He's super with the public, and he's great with his staff, and he volunteers when we have our days where we let everybody go because of the weather and we ask for volunteers. He's the first one to volunteer without even being asked, and so pretty much everywhere he'll jump in and help out, so we really appreciate him there. Guadalupe has been with us, started out in our data entry. David hired her years ago, well, yeah, as you so well know, 25 years ago. And she's moved from data entry because we have gotten rid of that department, and she works with our HR department. And she's that first person that people see when they walk in the door. And she directs folks where they need to go. She answers simple questions, help them. If they need to go, they need to go to the tax office, you know, where do they need to go? And she keeps up on all of that and helps us out. So we really appreciate her for that. So Speedy, what can I say about Speedy?
Is that what they call him, Speedy?
We call him Speedy. Yeah,
Speedy.
I don't even try to say the other. But Mr. Vargas, we call him Speedy, has been instrumental in our appraisal departments, and he now helps train our new appraisers. He's one of the senior leads over there, and he's just phenomenal with working with taxpayers and in the formal hearings that we have here. And we couldn't do it without him. He's also worked with us and helped us with some of our charitable, with the veterans. He's very tied into veterans organizations and associations, and so he's gotten us on the right track to help with some of that as some of our charitable side of what we try to do. So, Mr. Vargas, thank you so much. I just wanted to give you just a little snippet about the folks that you were standing next to. So, thank you, board members.
Thank you. Sergio and Ed, Shane and I have had the privilege of getting to know these people a little bit better when we've gone out of town. I mean, Daniel and Imelda. I mean, the reality is it's a family here. And it's not, you know, sometimes you get into this mindset that you're doing this and it's a job and I hate it. These are people who truly believe that the work that they're doing is on your behalf as citizens of El Paso. And it is. And they are. And they deserve our thanks, our gratitude. And we have a responsibility to acknowledge their effort and that realize that their effort is above and beyond. And especially when you get to meet, like we got to meet people who work in other districts throughout the state of Texas, whether it's Travis County or Harris, wherever, it's not the same. And I think that esprit de corps especially is exacerbated by Dinah. She's an exemplary executive director, and I think her team feels that, and they are exemplary in what they do, and we thank
Did y'all hear that? Just making sure. No.
It's recorded. They have it on TV. They can hear it on television.
Thank you, Mr. Berg. We
Thank you
appreciate
for what
that.
you all do. Thank you all for what you do. Those of you who are recognized and those of you who are here, we appreciate you very, very much. Any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, then we can move on. Comments from the chair. Well, obviously, I do want to acknowledge what we just saw, as well as the service of this district to the community at large. Had the fortune of having lunch just today with Oscar Leeser, who's the past mayor, and he acknowledged how proud he was of our Central Appraisal District and what we do. But one of the things that he pointed out, and I think it's something we all as citizens of this town need to be mindful of, is that we say, and you'll hear about it in a little while, that 65% to 70% of the taxes we collect are on the homeowners of this community. That's too much. That's too much. Somehow we've got to counterbalance that with commercial properties. And so we've got to bring that number down to 50%. And 50% of the taxes really needs to come from commercial properties. And either we need to attract them, and I've mentioned that to Renard, to the new mayor, but I think that should be the number one focus of the county, and that should be the number one focus of the city, is we've got to bring our taxes on homeowners down, and you can only do that by offsetting it with taxes on commercial properties. We just need to increase that. I think the county is doing a major effort in trying to get that done. And I thank you, Dinah, as I've said before. I think you just run a great ship here. Does anybody else have a comment that they might want to make? If not, we'll move on. So approval and signing of the minutes, you have in front of you, and you've gotten by electronics the minutes of the February 27th meeting. I will entertain any corrections or additions to those minutes. And if there aren't any, then I'll entertain a motion to accept them.
Move to approve the February 27th minutes.
Is there a second? Thank you. Shane seconds it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, the financial reports. Talk about dedication. There's your dedication right there. Tell us about the financial.
Good evening, Rosa Goldman, Chief Financial Officer. We are presenting the financial report for
Tab 6.
December 2024 and January 2025. The financial report contains the balance sheet, report of revenues, expenditures, and changes in cash balance, the investment report, and the note to the financial report. As you can see on both months, December and January, we have one account that is over budget by a little amount, $220, is the insurance. The premium came a little bit higher than we anticipated, and we have, the Texas notary fees that go into that account, so we are a little bit over budget. And that's it. Under the encumbered funds, everything remains the same. The Board of Directors election reserve is $527,886, and the litigation reserve balance is $823,225, for a total encumbered of $1,351,111. Any questions?
Are there any questions on the financial reports? Any at all? This is for December and January.
Yeah, I have a question.
There you go.
Is it normal for the insurance to be going up every year?
Well,
Or is it based on what usage we get out of it?
Well, normally it goes up every year a little bit. I think this year it went a little bit more, maybe because we had some claims. And additionally, we have the cyber liability, which also went higher because we need more protection
Oh, because of the cyber, okay.
also. Well, it's a
I
combination.
will tell you, Ed, that in my business, I've never seen insurance go down.
No.
I've seen it go up every year. Values go up every year.
much?
As values go up, we have to cover, they require you to cover 80% of those values.
So this insurance is also the cyber insurance and?
It's
Every
together.
Everything.
It comes together, yeah.
Okay, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
we put it
Okay.
all together.
But even values have gone up.
Okay.
To
It
replace a
includes-
light bulb.
Yeah, it includes like errors and omissions, general liability,
Right,
crime
right.
coverage, real and personal property.
insurance,
It's all under
everything.
that line item.
Remember, we had the pipe that burst
I
last
do
summer,
remember
so that was a big claim that we had.
No, I was just
to put
thinking
in.
it was health insurance.
Parking lot.
No,
parking
no, no,
lot
no,
issues
no.
too, yeah.
This is,
Okay,
No, it's
Liability.
everything having to do with liability
Yeah.
and the building itself. And unfortunately, yes, they go up every year. They just do, and there's nothing much we can do about it. In
And we
my
need it.
opinion.
Coverage,
Yeah, we
they've
have to
really
have
gone
it.
up
In
and
my
the
opinion,
coverage
it was
went down.
minimal. It was
Right?
minimal.
Yeah.
It could have been $10,000 or
Unfortunately.
$20,000. It was a minimal increase. So-
right.
And it's on there.
okay, I won't ask no more questions.
No, please do. Please do. Any other questions? Then we will accept the motion to approve the minutes of
Motion
these 2
to
months,
approve.
subject to audit.
Yes, motion to approve.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Department presentations,
Oh, this is,
my favorite part.
I know, I love this. So that's why you see a lot of folks here. I know, right? They're all part of putting these presentations together to be able to show the board of directors what's going to be going on before the notices go out. Notices are going out on the 4th of April, and so we always like to inform the board of some of the things, and some of y'all are new. So we wanted to show you some basic history of the appraisal department. So I'm going to turn it over. The first one is going to be Eric Wright. He's the manager of the Business Personal Property Department, and he'll be starting off. And then Michelle Martinez is the manager of the Commercial Industrial Department. She'll do a little presentation, and then we're going to round it up with Residential Manager Crystal Pickett. Okay, so Eric? Oh,
They don't tell you anything.
you know I'm the
They don't
last.
give you anything. No free warning.
Changing the order? Oh, okay.
I have my notes because I am not a successful orator, but it will be short and sweet.
Introduce yourself. Tell them who you are.
Oh, yes, yes. Good evening, board members. My name is Michelle Martinez. I'm the manager in the commercial department. And we'll wait for my presentation to pop up.
We actually had this all set up, so
I
we wouldn't have to
know.
Yeah,
wait.
there it
I
is.
apologize. There we go, okay.
Okay. These are the faces, the happy faces of the people that I get to work with every day. There's 15 of us. Okay, so commercial properties, if you want to go, oh, never mind, I get to do it. Do I point here? Here? Okay. Commercial properties are non-residential, commercially zoned real estate. There are about 25,000 commercial parcels, which include exempt governmental buildings and schools, but also retail, lodging, multifamily, and industrial. So just one of the governing body, sources for the appraisal district is the property tax code, and it states that all taxable property is appraised at its market value as of January 1st, and the market value of property shall be determined by the application of generally accepted appraisal methods and techniques. So I'll discuss what those methods are in a few moments. Our goal is market value, which is defined as the price at which a property would transfer for cash or its equivalent under prevailing market conditions if exposed for sale for a reasonable amount of time, and both seller and purchaser are aware of all uses and restrictions, and both the seller and the purchaser seek to maximize their gains. So the three approaches are going to be cost, which is we start at the land value and we add in a depreciated cost of the buildings and any associated yard improvements. The income approach, which is where we discount the future financial benefits, i.e. the cash flow, into a present value. And market, which is a comparison of the subject to recently sold property. So those are the three generally accepted methods for appraisal. Commercial properties can vary from simple kit warehouses all the way up to something as large as Amazon. We calculate the cost value on commercial properties, even if the notice value is eventually based on an income approach. So for our cost values, we rely on the Marshall Swift tables, and Marshall Swift is a company that provides a cost approach to valuation. They publish an appraisal guide for developing replacement and depreciated costs of primarily commercial structures when it has roots dating back to 1932. So the method requires many details to be recorded about the property to accurately calculate an appropriate cost value. These details include the occupancy, the class, the wall height, the area and the perimeter, as well as information about the associated yard improvements like asphalt, concrete, lights, and elevators, etc. Sometimes the layout of the property is not straightforward, and although we try to get the plans from the property owner or municipality, it's not always possible. So the staff is trained to always be ready to measure property in the field. And if we can't measure, then we have pictometry as a backup for us, and that's been a very helpful tool to get some very accurate estimates of the measurements as long as the aerial images are up to date. We also use pictometry to discover new improvements that were built without a permit. So the major categories that we apply under the income approach are going to be your apartments, your hotels, offices, warehouses, and retail properties, and the total is about 6,000. So we start by estimating the income and expense for these properties while taking into consideration the size and the age, location, before applying market cap rates on these properties. So the comparable data that we need to develop these income models can be hard to get, given that Texas is a non-disclosure state. So all commercial staff are trained to interview property owners and tenants in the field to shore up the information, and this is a good appraisal practice, and it is time consuming and has varying degrees of success. But for the most consistent source of income and sales information, we use paid subscriptions. Examples are going to be our CoStar, Cred IQ, we recently just added, Real Capital Analytics, and Axiometrics. So these really do help us out getting that comparable data to create those models. Identifying new commercial construction is a major concern for us. So permits are one way to identify new buildings being constructed. EPCAD gathers permit information from the municipalities and enters it into our database. This graph represents the municipal permits over the last 4 years. And although it looks like 2024 saw a decrease, there was a significant increase in construction off the east side of El Paso, between the city limits of El Paso and the Horizon City. So there was a lot of new construction in there. So it more just shifted to that area and out of, the municipalities. Settling ARB protests is a challenge for the commercial department, as almost 50% of the non-exempt properties are represented by an agent. These agents handle the ARB hearings for the property owners, and commercial staff needs to be knowledgeable to be able to adequately present our evidence and filter through the arguments and assumptions that are presented by these agents. In 2024, over $14.12 billion in commercial value was timely protested, and the average property value protested was almost $2.2 million. And from the complexity of the field work to the high stress at the ARB, it's imperative that commercial staff be well prepared for the challenges that they face. And the assistant manager, Haiti Ceniceros, and our training facilitator, Ruben Rosas, are instrumental in getting new staff up to speed quickly. And they guide all the new commercial staff through a structured 9-week course, which is in addition to training already provided by the CAD to the new applicants. During the training, they touch on many subjects, from the history of the property tax in Texas to ethics and open meetings, the 3 approaches to value, field procedures, and navigating our database. Commercial staff has a very high pass rate on the TDLR exams, and I feel that this is in no small part to Hades and Ruben, who is sitting right here, efforts. And Haiti couldn't be here tonight, but we have Ruben here. But yes, they're very instrumental in getting our staff really up to speed very quickly, and so I'm really grateful for their assistance. But as I said, it was short and sweet. If there are any questions, we'll be glad to hear them.
One thing I just discovered today was that apartments, multifamily apartments, are part of the commercial properties, and and that's how it is, and that's just what it is. But I think it kind of skews again how much value we put on residential versus what we put on commercial, because those apartments are passing through the taxes to their tenants. So at the end of the day, I think if we can create some sort of a barometer on how many apartments that are separate from the rest of the commercial properties, and then add them to what we consider residential properties, it will give everybody a better concept of how much money is actually going on people who are living in a building versus how much money is being assessed to commercial real estate retail owners. And I think it gives elected officials a better comprehension of the level of pressure we're putting on residences versus building up our commercial base and taking that higher. So it's just a thought.
And
This
we
is the
can-
way it's
yeah.
done, and it's the way it's been done.
Right.
So.
Well, for state reporting, we do it the way we have to do it for state reporting and the numbers that they need. But we can definitely come up with some separation of values and categories that we can have available for the board, and then for any of the elected officials that call us, we can give them information. We just gave some information regarding business personal property to some of the elected officials that had asked for it. So that is stuff that we can do.
When we report the category values to the entities, the multifamily is separated from both the commercial and the residential. It's its own line item.
Well, duplexes and multiplexes are part of residential.
Residential, yes.
So
Quick
it's just
question.
these apartments are hanging. Yeah,
I didn't know that much was protested, $14.12
All of it's-
billion.
no.
How do you do that? Wow.
With a wonderful staff.
I mean, I take my hat off to you guys. Congratulations, because you guys are doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Seeing those numbers up there, I was like, wow.
And you have to remember, this is very time
Yes.
constrained, because by the time the notices go out, and we have to certify 95% of all protests,
Absolutely.
board turns the records over to us on July 20th, so we can certify by the 25th.
God bless you
So
guys.
it's a short time
And then
period.
another question, Texas, can they not let you in? Because we're a non-disclosure state. That's what you said, right? I'm saying this.
They can't get sales.
Some of these people may not know that, the newer ones, but can you explain to them? I know what it is, but
As far as if we were to visit a property.
Right,
And they
and-
were to, we won't go into a property where we're not allowed. So
how do you get the accurate what's in there? You know?
the use of the aerial imagery. And so it's the pictometry. We have a subscription, and they'll fly over the county once a year, and usually in the winter, because the leaves will be down, and it'll also correspond to January 1st, gives us a better estimate of what was there on January 1st. And so they'll fly it from 4 directions, so we can actually have an opportunity to view it from multiple
So-
aerial
Right. And
directions.
If you go to a company and say, no, we're not letting you in there, so then you'll put right down and you'll fly something.
Well, yeah,
Drone.
Well, so what happens is the board allows us, you've approved our contracts with our aerials. And so it's flown every year, so we have those aerials. And if there is a facility that we can't get into, then we have those aerials that we can go back to, and we can take measurements off of it. Also, you've got to remember, our staff is trained by state required courses and by the department's own training booklets and stuff that they've put together, their own training process that they've put together. So they have an idea of what is going to be there. So if they can't get in, say, to a Target, let's just throw that out there. If they can't get in, they know it's a retail, it has this, it has that. They can measure it from outside. They can come back in, they can use the aerials. Where we have more difficulty is, of course, residential. Because in commercial properties, they do have to give us access for like personal property, but if they won't give it to us, we don't force the issue. We don't have that kind of police authority, and we don't want it, so, but we have several other methods. A lot of it is comparing one business to another. We know what this business has. Also, in personal property, they have to render, and so we can use that information for commercial property too to see how much. So there's a lot of research that goes on between the departments and being able to get that information. Ultimately, though, it is the responsibility of the property owner, once they get their notice, to come in and tell us if we're wrong. There's rights and remedies, and one of the remedies is they can come in and give us that information to show, your estimation of your square footage was off. Okay, great, then let's go out with you and we'll measure, or bring us your plans, so it's a long process, but it does, when you think of that one property, look at Amazon going out and They went out and measured Amazon, and they used the plans. Most companies are pretty open about, here's our plans. You know, they have a trailer, you go to the trailer, we tell them who we are, and give them our business card, and a lot of the companies say, well, here are the plans on the table if you want to sit down and look at those. We have different types of wheels and measuring tapes that we use. And when we get into, you'll see some of that in the residential and the personal property presentations. You'll see some of that.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie, do you have a question? Do you have a question? Okay. Anybody? Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Our PPP manager, Eric Wright, is back, so.
Oh, Eric, right. Oh, okay, great. So Eric is our manager of our business personal property department. And the business personal property and the commercial department work very hand in hand. So if the commercial is out there and they see a new business, they let them know. If personal property is out there and they see some changes, they'll let commercial property know. So Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Dinah. Apologies, property owners, don't stop, right? We got to help them, we got to help them. But as Dinah mentioned, my name is Eric Wright, business personal property manager. Been here 16, going on 17 years. And I'm going to walk you through a little about what my department does. We handle anything from convenience stores, shipping, import, export, to manufacturing, depends on what we have in town, but we cover everything. If it's a business, it's open, we try to get in there, we try to see what's going on, okay? For us, we have a couple of different phases. Our first one is the discovery phase. We run that August through February. One of the challenges with personal property is the extent to which taxable property can be assessed depends on its discovery. Business personal property is inherently difficult to track down. It's movable. It can be here today, gone tomorrow, right? It's very fluid. The hardest part is we have January 1 as our day to pick and go. So we have to try to identify if it was there at that time. Our goal, we canvass the entire county annually, even if we're only required to do so every third year. We identify new businesses and interview owners to determine the nature of the business and gather as much data as possible to facilitate an appraisal. We also have to identify closed businesses, delete them from the appraisal roll, and conduct research to ensure they didn't just move. Sometimes they move. They're not there now. They're somewhere else. We can't just delete it outright. We have to make sure. We also confirm that ownership for existing businesses has not changed. Hair salons are one of the best examples of this because oftentimes, 1 year to the next, somebody comes in, buys it, investment opportunity, they'll run it for so many years, and they'll change hands again. Some of the sources we use, various newspapers, city permits, internet. Diane already mentioned we work very closely with the commercial field appraisers. They find a new structure, new business going in, great, they let us know. We find a new business, looks like a new building, we let them know. We do reach out to warehouses every year. They let us know in the event there's storage there or other tenants who might be leasing space for import-export. Delgado Acosta, Spencer Lundberger, and Perez do give us information about deleted accounts in the event they're past due, delinquent. They couldn't track them down either. They give us the heads up we might need to review. And one of our biggest sources that we've been utilizing lately is the Texas DMV. We got a hold of them, get access to the information for different vehicles registered to different companies, helps us get a better vehicle roll. Fieldwork, as part of the discovery process, it has been updated due to the use of a mobile app. That mobile app was approved by this board of directors a couple years ago. Some of you were here, some of you weren't, but it's thanks to that decision that we've seen some very good improvements. One of the benefits is properties are automatically grouped by street name nightly. So whether it's a new account, an old account, it's automatically grouped for us. The property data is then bound to a digital map and displayed for ease of routing and property identification. And then specific streets or areas are then assigned to the appraisers. For 24, we were able to inspect 18,000 of our 22 possible using that system. The other 4,000 we had to do paper through other surveys and things like that because the system didn't like it as much. But that 18,000 was a 2,000 account increase over last year. So from 1 year to the next, we saw a pretty sizable uptick of productivity. Before, a single street, such as Zaragoza, Mesa, looked like that, stapler for scale. Okay. A single large street could require 2.5 reams of paper. We tried to convert those into PDF. Unfortunately, PDF would cap out for us at a 500 record limit. So we were limited to, can't just have one file, I gotta have multiples. Updates on staff progress was highly dependent on submitted forms. Looked like this. Hey, I did this many today. Still in business. Photos I took, gons, changes, things like that. Reviewing separate submissions was cumbersome. Every appraiser needed a submission of what they did every day. It's a lot. That's what it was before. Now, the appraisers go to the fields. They go to this property here. There's a little tab. You click on it. List all the businesses there for us. We can go through, pull them up one at a time. They're still here. They're still here. Is this the right ownership for this nail salon? It is. Great. It's not. Cool. I'll verify it. Let me get that information. I'll correct it back in the office. From an administrative standpoint, instead of getting all of those individual reports from every appraiser every day, we go to the dashboard. We can see, hey, we've assigned so many to you. How far are you doing on your list? On the current task you're working on, what do you have left? If we need to, we can go by day, by hour, by week, by month, and do an ad hoc report and see everything they've touched. This is, I believe, a Mesa report we ran for about a month, and you see each one of these little ticks here is where an appraiser stopped, hit an account, and verified it all the way through. You click on that, you can see the time and date that they were there. It's awesome. Number of personal property accounts by year has increased steadily from 2020. We were at about 25,800 up to 2024, where we settled in about 27,500. Okay, so about a 2,000 account increase from then to now. Appraised value in billions back in 2020, we were sitting at about 7 billion. At the end of 24, we settled in at 10 billion. Which is a nice little increase, about 40%. Nothing small to sneeze at. Our next phase after discovery and setting all of these values and trying to reach all of those accounts is working through the renditions. The Property Tax Code, Section 2201, requires a business to render all tangible personal property used for the production of income that the business owns or the business manages or controls as of January 1. Renditions reports must be delivered to the chief appraiser after January 1 and not later than the April 15th deadline. However, the chief appraiser shall, and this is a big one, okay, extend the deadline to May 15th upon written request by the property owner. So, Dinah mentioned a little while ago, it's the property owner's responsibility to render to us what they have. They've got until April 15th to do that. We only have so long before we have to certify a roll, which is in July. So from April to July, we have to make sure we go through all the renditions we get, and the first deadline is April 15th. There's a shall clause in there that if they request it in writing, we have to give them an additional 30 days till May 15th. That takes our timeline there from May 15th to the end of July to go through all these renditions and set a good value. Okay. That's really short. The Property Tax Code, Section 2312, allows the owner of inventory to have it appraised at its market value as of September 1 of the preceding tax year for which it is being appraised. It does require an application to be filed with the appraisal district. And what that essentially is used for, you have your retail, they get their Black Friday, they get their Christmas. That might be sticking around January 1. So the tax code allows the provision of like, hey, you can do your September 1 before your busy time. You have to apply for it. If you apply for it, you can give us that September 1 day and be assessed on your inventory as of September 1 instead of January 1. Okay. Renditions submitted per year. Back in 2020, we had 15,986. That stayed around the 15,000 range until 2023. The fun thing to note is in 2022, the board approved the use of our mobile app. So you can see a big jump here where we were probably reaching more property owners, having more time to speak to them, inform them about the process, and we saw a nice jump on owner-reported renditions. That means we're going to have better values, less protests. Okay. Last year, we settled in at 17,000 reported. This is the fun timeline. Renditions received last year. January to March, okay, of that 17,000, we had 1,600, only 11%, filed early. April, the first deadline, 10,829 filed. in 1 month, just before the deadline. We had an additional close to 3,000 who filed after that deadline to May 15th. And I guarantee you that May date right there is a May 15th postage stamp date. Not the day we got it. It was in the mail on the 15th. We got it like 3-4 days later. Okay. There are a few that still come in and were sent after that date. They're not included here. And that's going to make up the difference between the 17,000 and this. But you'll see, we don't get a lot of prep time for the preceding months of March. January, February, March. And then in April, we got to crank it down. And then we still have a good chunk that come in May. On top of that, additional work that we have to get through. We had 494 Freeport renditions we had to work last year, along with 161 vehicle allocation applications to get through. And then as needed, all team members work on special inventory related submissions. These accounts are going to be your automotive dealers, your heavy machinery dealers. They're selling those mobile units, okay? Monthly reports that they gave us, 6,934. They have to give us a monthly report, and then at the end of the year, we get a yearly declaration. So we had 739 that we had to process in addition to all of that. Doing that sometimes has us feeling like this. Paperwork, moving, deadline. Renditions could look something like this, handwritten. A little hard to get through. I see $10, $50, $20, some good faith estimates, right? Used, I'm not sure what that says, hard to read. Other times, we would have some substantial reports we would give us. This is one rendition, maybe 20 pages right there. Each one of those line items is going to be an asset. We had to process that. Thankfully, okay, our most experienced appraisers approximately would take 2.5 days to work through something like this. 2.5 days. Handwritten, skimming through it, highlighting what we got. Do we have it in the system? Is it new? Is it not new? We can't just type it all. We got to see if we already got it, right? But we have to verify it. 2.5 days before we looked at any workflows. Okay. IT and application support came together and built us a program. We could take these as spreadsheets, feed it in with the location, and it would tell us which of your entities each asset sits and tell us, hey, it's in this TDC, making sure that your entities are able to assess that asset properly. Okay. Then the commercial department manager, Ms. Michelle, who just had her presentation, she was able to go through and work with Excel to combine those lookups and those values along with the years, along with our depreciation tables, so we can run it down the page in Excel and get your current values. What took 2.5 days before can now take between 45 minutes to an hour. Major time savings, we're talking 17,000 renditions.
Probably more accurate.
Definitely, definitely. Instead of trying to read the little scribbles, we got an actual Excel typed in spreadsheet. We go from being stressed out to feeling like, hey, I like what I do. This is pretty good. After renditions, we get into equalization. Sometimes you're going to hear that referred to as appeals, protest, or the hearing phase. But as a result of the rendition process, protests for BPP do not rise to the level of commercial or residential accounts. Many are going to be for businesses that closed after we already reviewed that account. So let's say we started our review time in August, like I mentioned. We're out there in November. Let's say they move out at the end of December and they can prove they were gone. We were there the month earlier. We said they were still there. They come and prove it. That's why we got the protest. They shouldn't be assessed because they weren't there on January 1. This is what it looks like. Okay, for 2020, our rendition or our protest that we got was 3,627. Of those, due to renditions that were either brought in, asset lists that were rendered, we were able to settle informally. That means it doesn't come up here to the board. It doesn't get a chance to go to suit. It's done. Okay. So of our 3,600, 18 were settled downstairs. Last year in 2024, 3,300. You see it kind of standard across the board in the 3,000 protest range, and we're settling anywhere between 30 to 50% of them. We settle those because they bring in the asset list. It's what they have. It's the proper values now. So we talk about how do we know the question was asked a minute ago, how do we know what's in there? This is where it comes out. They bring us those lists, we work them, and we say, hey, why are we going to make you go to the board and fight for it? This is everything. Let's get it taken care of. This is a fun one that I added last year. It's the top 5 BPP categories in millions with a 5-year % increase. Okay. Motor vehicle parts and accessories. That's going to be anything parted out, AutoZone, O'Reilly's, things like that. Those have gone up 83% over the last 5 years to 319 million on a roll. Electric services, whether Paso Electric, different solar farms, those have gone up 32% to arrive at 358 million on the roll. Durable goods, import-export, general, that went up 69% to 371 million. Direct selling establishment, this one I got an asterisk on. 5 years ago, it was about 100,000. Direct selling establishment came in with Amazon, and that jumped it up to 371 million. Before, it wasn't on the roll with any sort of category that really meant anything. As soon as they came in, it jumped in. Okay, it was more than 100%, but that's why I have it written like that. And then computer peripheral equipment currently sits out 407 million of our roll, and that went up 304% from 5 years ago because Facebook brought in an import-export, which was the computer peripherals. Okay. With that, this is my team that gets it done. Okay. As you can tell, we try to have some fun when we can, have a Christmas party. We made a lot of donuts that year.
Yes, we did.
But it was really good. It was really good. All right.
Wonderful,
If anybody
wonderful.
has any questions,
I have a few questions.
you got it.
What is the Freeport exemption?
Freeport exemption is going to allow a business who is exporting goods from the state that leaves within a certain time period to get it exempt. Typically, there's a mathematical calculation, and the inventory they report at the end of the year gets exempt by a percentage. That can be anywhere from 1% up to 100%. If they're moving it quick enough, the comptroller has a guideline for it. If they're moving it all out quick enough, they could be 100% exempt.
Oh, thank you. I did not know that. What about a mobile exemption? Is that a food truck?
Say that one more time.
Mobile exemption?
Mobile exemption?
There was something underneath the Freeport that I.
Oh, the vehicle allocation. That one is another form of exemption. It's based on the vehicles a company might run. Think of like a trucking company.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just running in Texas, right? They could be running from East Coast, West Coast, back and forth. But the allocation permits us to assess that vehicle at the percentage that it drove in Texas.
I got you. Good, good. And what happens if I know you have these businesses that don't respond to any of your, do we impose fines? What do we do?
So when businesses don't file year over year over year, that's kind of a red flag. Typically means we're going to be undervalued because they're not protesting either, right? They're not telling us, hey, maybe we're double what you have on the roll. So with those, we do run reports, flag them, and we set them up as our paper. You know how there was a discrepancy between the 18 and 22, not on mobile? We're like, hey, let's do special attention on these. And then we go out there and take care of them.
And if they don't render, there is a penalty per state law, state statute, a 10% penalty that's applied to the taxes, not the value. So when they get their tax bill, if they haven't rendered, so we have to code all of the businesses that have not rendered, because then when the bill goes out, there's a 10% penalty added to based on their taxes.
Wonderful. Good job. Oh my God. For that little team, you do all that for us? Wow.
Yes, sir. We try.
Awesome.
I have a question. You mentioned about special inventory. I think it was connected to dealers. Did automobile dealers have to render their equipment or their vehicles or anything like that?
So when we talk about the dealerships and they do the SITs, the special inventory tax, every month they report to us, this is how many vehicles I sold. When they do that, a part of the tax title and license gets cut out and sent over to an escrow that will later pay the taxes when we create their assessment account. There is the option for them to opt out of doing that. They typically won't, because then they would be assessed what they had on the lot as of January 1 instead of what they sold, which is typically going to result in a much higher taxable value, but the tax code gives them the provision to run it that way, and they typically do.
So how does that, explain to me the rendition of that? Is that applicable to them?
So for them, they do have a rendition, but it's going to be subject only to their office. So the inventory that they have is part of the special inventory account, and that's an S account, separate. And then they'll have the personal property account, which is the building, the office, the computer, stuff like that. So they typically have two.
And just to inform the board, we work with the county tax office because if they're on that type of inventory that they have to submit to us every month, we then send a copy to the county tax assessor, and they have a department that is kind of like regulations. They're the enforcers, and they will go out to those car dealers to make sure that they're declaring properly. And so we pay them a fee. And they get so much, and we get so much of that penalty for that. So we work real closely with Mr. Gonzalez's county tax office on that.
Just for the record, I mean, you may know this, but this last calendar year, the motor vehicle industry in El Paso, they sold over $3 billion in sales. And out of that vehicle inventory tax portion that I sent a check to the city tax office, it was a little bit over $6 million, $6.8 million of their portion of property inventory taxes that we collected. So they do contribute to the economy, and they may complain about the dealers on Alameda, they look run down, but they do contribute, so there should be no criticism from anybody.
Right. The thing about it too is they pay every month into their tax bill. If they overpay, they don't get it back. If they underpay, then they get a bill for the difference. And so that's what the enforcement section of the county tax office makes sure that if we don't get an application, if we don't get the form from them that we then send to the county, they go out there. So we have a nice working relationship with them on that.
So that business is healthy because this is the third year that they've had over $3 billion in motor vehicle sales, new and used cars in El Paso County. So every tax accident.
It's a big industry that I think we overlook, but it's a big industry for El Paso.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Everybody needs a car.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now the one you've really been waiting for.
No
pressure. No pressure, Crystal, no pressure. Now, this is Crystal's ticket for residential manager. You know, we say, Mr. Berg, you're wonderful about pointing out how I run this organization, or how David or Rosa, but everybody, if it wasn't for the staff that we have here, you see the pictures of the staff, and it takes all of us. It takes the training, the different folks that we have doing the training, the appraisers out in the field. We had them out there in the sandstorm. You know, come on, you got to come back in. No, I'm almost finished. I want to get done, you know.
You had them out there in the sandstorm?
We didn't. No, they wanted to finish up. I mean, they're dedicated.
Very dedicated.
That's the bad one. They're so dedicated, and I'm just so proud of all of our staff. And so thank you for letting them show you what they do.
Okay, so like Dinah said, I'm Crystal Pickett. I'm the residential manager. I've been here 26 years. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a couple of numbers for you guys just so you can see what residential is and does. Basically, residential is mobile homes, tract homes, condos, and then custom-built homes also. Okay, we also do agriculture. The residential department makes up 63% of the total role. So 37% of that is BPP and commercial. Okay. This is my 2024 protest breakdown. The total number of 2024 protests filed was 45,746. Of those, residential were 34,165. Filed by individuals, 20,686. And then, of course, by tax agents, 13,479. There was 143 protests filed online. So if you break that down just by the numbers of appraisers I have, they each held 1,625 protests informally in a 3 to 4 month time. That's why they're in the sandstorms, guys. So, I mean, that just breaks it down. 70% of the protests were residential. Breaking that down, 55% of those protests that were filed for residential were settled one-on-one informally with an appraiser. 15% were no-showed, 7% were withdrawn, and 23% of those went to the board. 96% were residential online. It's easier to file, I think, on online for residential than it is commercial. My opinion. Informal hearings, this is just a picture of an informal hearing, and the lady in pink is still in the room. She's in pink.
Is that her?
Here?
Yeah, still in pink.
So some of the examples of evidence that's brought in by property owners that helps us get some information are fee appraisals, settlement statements, photos, estimates, and then information from the realtors, and that's what helps us get to a proper value. Permits are taken out through the city. We receive them electronically. We drive previous year subdivisions in those areas that we don't get permits from, and then Horizon and Socorro, they email us monthly and let us know what's going on in their areas. The workload for 2024, there was 8,170 permits. And when I say permits, that's new residences, pools, re-roofs, additions, anything that they would take a permit, those are permits taken out. Remember that, okay? Not taken out. 8,717 rechecks. So recheck is when we go out there for a completion of a permit or a friendly neighbor narked on their neighbor and they want us to know that their person has a pool in their backyard, things of that nature. 5,363 various subdivisions were reappraised. Each one of the appraisers that goes out there did about 1,059 accounts. Then we go into the ag area. There's 3 dedicated appraisers for all of the ag in the entire county. So they worked 49 brand new subdivisions. They worked 208 T8s. T8s are when they separate new subdivisions, when they combine properties, when they do anything different to change a PID number, they have to actually work that too. We did a reappraisal of Isleta ISD of their land this year. It was 58,000 accounts that those 3 people worked. They field checked 372 land accounts, and then they worked on September inventory for ag, and it was 1,646. And so that was 3 people. We also did a mobile home project, because those are super fun, because they move all over the place. So there's 96 mobile home parks in El Paso County. The smallest one has 7 lots. The largest one has 177. And we attempted to walk each and every one of those to make sure we had the right serial numbers, the right color of those mobile homes, if they had any additions to them. So we worked on those. That was a 2-year project, and we got that done. This is a cool slide because it shows you the way the development happens for residential. So this is what this particular area looked like in 2008. It's a total of 109 acres. That's what it looks like in 2011. When you break it down, it started off at 1.2 and it ended up at $72 million. Sandstorms, guys, sandstorms, remember. Sales information, it's been mentioned by Michelle. We're a non-disclosure state, so we don't have access to MLS. So how do we get our sales information? We send questionnaires to property owners that purchase properties. We look up deeds, internet searches, we have subscription services, and then we also get that evidence when they have those one-on-ones, when they bring in their fee appraisals, because they have comps on them and they have listings and everything else, so we get that information as well. I find this interesting, you may not. For 2024, the lowest sale that we got was $8,000. The highest one was 3.6. These are single-family residences. I thought Mr. Berg would like that one.
I think that's low.
She said you were
I'm
gonna
getting
say
there.
that.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So for 2023, the lowest one we had was 35,000. The highest was 1.8. So
That's way low.
that was in 2023, sir.
But you've
We're
done
getting
better in
better.
2023.
Okay, thank you. That's all I
You've
need to
done
know.
much better.
Much better. Okay.
We still have a way to go, but you're much better.
It's a work in progress. Sandstorms. Smallest house we have on record in El Paso is 480 square feet. The largest one we have is 17,829.
Where do you get that number? Because I know there are houses that are larger than 17,829 square feet.
Well,
Tiny's got one that's 50,000.
I got one that's 40,000. No, I'm done. But I know houses that are 25,000
Well,
square feet.
Which one?
so if we don't have access to physically measure these properties, we do our best with the pictometry flyovers, and we will measure them that way. There's a possibility of missing stuff, especially if we walk up there and they say, no, get off my property. I don't want you to measure.
Yeah, I get that.
We don't have that. Sometimes we get the plans. It just depends. Sometimes we don't. We do the best with everything that we have.
Yeah.
But I'll show you a picture of the flyover so you can see what I'm talking about. This is interesting also. This was on Realtor.com. The top 10 cities with the most new construction home, and they're affordable
That's true.
per Realtor.com. El Paso is number 8. This is what it looks like for somebody in the field.
The back one. 44% is new. Okay.
And that median list price is 308. Gotten
It's
higher.
way up.
Yeah.
Jackie, that's way up from where it was.
Yeah, I don't think it's right either.
But look at the rest of the country. I mean, we're pretty
We
affordable.
If you notice, when we send our reports to the entities, we're not at 308 for average.
Yeah, no.
So this is an appraiser out there physically measuring a house. So if we don't get the plans, this is what happens. We have to physically put a tape measure on these properties, and we measure these properties to get the best square footage possible. Field work, we have printed appraisal cards by neighborhood. They're assigned by staff. We've been using a mobile device as well, so that's a lot quicker because it's just a sync into the computer, so they don't actually have to come in and data entry. They route their work in the most efficient way possible. This mobile device does it for them, which is great because it literally tells them how to get there and how to get back. They're out by 9 o'clock. They're back by 4 in the afternoon. They speak to property owners. They try to get as much information as possible. If a property owner is not there, they leave their business card in the door so you know that we've been at your house, because everybody has a Ring camera now. Everybody does. Okay. This is a good example of what we can see through pictometry. So this is something that we may be off as far as square footage is concerned, because what's high ceiling, what's second story, what's an addition, you can do your best, and we get as close as possible. It's not perfect, but it's mass appraisal. That's another one. That's another one.
Is that a mobile home?
Yes, sir. That's a mobile home with an addition on the back and the front.
And you wonder why we
Legal?
use pictometry or aerial to measure this? Dogs.
Yeah.
Fenced off with chain link with dogs.
You
And
guys
so
have a
we
lot
have
of
to
dog
use the aerials for
Not really,
something.
no.
They don't do it. They would not go if there's a dog.
So, no, and to be very honest with you, as far as the dogs are concerned, about 90% of us are okay with the dogs coming up and talking to us. We've had dogs jump in the car.
Oh,
I used to take dog
My
bones with me,
God.
because if it was, get in the car, whatever, but, we have to get it done. I mean, it is what it is. So the 2025 pictometry or Maddox numbers and change finder, we reviewed 8,000 accounts. We added 157 million to the rolls. So my forecast, don't shoot me if it's wrong, we're still finalizing everything. The values, we work with market, and as it increases, we'll follow it. If it goes down, we're going to go down, but I don't see that happening. So I tried to do that as fast as possible, but
It is.
sorry.
Good job of El Paso's gone down. Not much, but it's gone down.
Sorry, you know what, my last slide? There's your people, and there's some of them here, so.
Bravo, bravo. Good job. I don't know how you do
Go
it.
back 2 slides. Go back 2 slides. I just want you all to see when she added 157 million to the tax rolls,
Yeah.
that added 3% of that is what is tax. So that added $5 million to the entities. That means our entities, because of that, received $5 million. Just added $5 million to their ability to provide roads or provide schools or whatever it is they do with them. Hopefully they use it well, but that's where it came from.
Well, and
Thank you, Kristen. 'cause
Thank
did
you,
it.
Kristen.
Absolutely.
Any questions? Kristen?
You know, I'd like to say, each one of our presenters mentioned to the board, because of what the board approved, or because, and it is, which y'all approve in our budget, allows us to buy the equipment, to have a vendor like, that does the aerials, that does the flybys, to be able to do that, that helps us add the right value on, or make the adjustments. So they do realize that, and so when they were saying thank you, it wasn't because you're out in the dirt helping them, but it was because you were giving them the tools that they need. So
They need it.
Yeah.
They've got a lot on their hands to do.
El Paso County's, we're over 1,000 square miles,
Wow.
and you know we have to inspect that. Every property has to be looked at, and the 2 pertinent walls measured at least once every 3 years. That we have to actually physically inspect. But when you have a lot of growth going on, we're out there every year. Personal property, you heard Mr. Wright say they're out there every year. Commercial property, something like the Amazon, it was probably 3 years before we got the full value on that. So they're having to, go back out there again and rework the numbers and talk to people. So it's an ongoing process, and we're human. You know, there's mistakes. We get as close as we can. There's mistakes, but again, notices are getting ready to go out. Protests are getting ready to be done. That's when we find out so much information individually. So get ready for the board. Yeah.
Any questions of any of our presenters? Crystal, because that was
I'm
yours.
not answering any more questions, I sat down.
She's already back
sat down. You're
down.
good.
She took off faster than we did.
Thank you,
We
board
thank you
members.
all. We thank all of you who gave presentations, but really everybody who works here. But it ran us a little bit late, but I wanted you all, I think it's good for you to know what these people
goes on.
do.
Oh, yeah.
And the volume. It isn't just what they do. What they do is they spend 8 hours a day. But it's the volume of things that they do and the dedication they have to doing it right. So I think that's important for you to see. So it was worth the time. Sorry it took us a little bit longer, but I want you to see that. And so Dinah wanted you to see it more than I did. Our taxpayer liaison. Tracy here? Yeah, there she is.
Yes, she is.
Good to see you better.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Tracy Carter, Taxpayer Liaison Officer. If you all, there's a blue folder that is in front of you all. If you all can please pull that out. Because first of all, I'd like to inform you all that the Appraisal Review Board Attorney, Mr. Coronado, had made a suggestion to add to our code disability, and our Appraisal Review Board Attorney did approve that. So I will have all new members fill out the new form. And it was number 8 that was added. And currently, we still have our 45 members. We are waiting for one more background check to come through. I was able to go to the TAD conference the past month, and inside the blue envelope on your left-hand side, there is information for you all, presentation of 25 do's and don'ts for the board of directors. And also on the right-hand side, this is part 1. On the right-hand side, you'll have the folder, and it'll say Part 2, recent legislative changes for the appraisal districts. And behind that one you'll find the presentation on criminal liability, which I believe this will provide guidance to all of you all. And for our new board members, I just wanted to let you all know the past legislative sessions on Senate Bill 2 made lots of changes for the board of directors, including the election of 3 board members and the appointment of the tax assessor collector, the ex officio member, as an ex officio member, and it is imperative to note that the board of directors' primary duties are to hire and fire a chief appraiser, adopt a budget, determine complaints, appoint the TLO, evaluate the timeliness of the resolution of complaints, develop a written plan for the reappraisal, designate a depository, and appoint and remove ARB members now. Now, the board of directors selects the chairman of the appraisal review board and the secretary of the appraisal review board. An appointment of the ARB by majority vote with at least 2 of the majority being elected board members. Board meetings have to be done at least once each calendar quarter, and also to develop and implement policies regarding reasonable access to the board and speaking before the board, prepare information describing the board's functions and complaint procedures. Furthermore, I would urge you to carefully review all the presentations, as they hold critical information for our organization. In recent developments concerning the ARB, we received the resignation of 3 ARB members. Monica Alfaro, Brenda Montoya, Rodolfo Aguilar. The reappointment of the 3 new ARB members are Christian Valle, Amanda Villalobos, which we're still waiting for a background check to go through, but she is very interested in the position, and also Hilda Gomez. She was a previous ARB member, so she's coming back with experience. And I would like to highlight the recent training sessions, and I'd like to thank Mrs. York, Mr. Mena, Mr. Gonzalez for attending our March 10th training for the Appraisal Review Board. It was done by John Trable, an MAI appraiser, followed by another session by the ARB attorney, Roy Armstrong. And additionally, I want to let y'all know, if you all would like to attend, on April 8th, the ARB will have state comptroller training that is required. And on April 15th, they'll also have, all the members will have training. So April 8th is for the new ARB members. April 15th is for all the ARB members, and that will be here at the district at 8 a.m. And on March 24th through the 26th, the ARB will be here to hear motions to correct. So they will be in session, and the ARB will start the protest season on April 21st. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. And I think I emailed it, but I didn't see, you might have responded, and I might have missed it. On the new members that are going to come in to fill in, training already happened. And by the way, the training was very good. It was good. How are these newer ones? I know Hilda's been here already, but how are the other 2 going to get training? Because that was some.
They'll get their training
pretty
through the state
intense.
comptroller. We only do that training once a year. So the new ones that come in after the fact, everybody's required by the state comptroller to do the training. The state comptroller doesn't come in person, it's through webinar. And so anybody that comes in has to have that to be able to serve. So that'll be the training that they'll get.
But they'll only get the state comptroller
Correct.
when they're not going to get the
No.
training that these other members got.
It'll
which
be up
was
to the chairman.
Really important training.
Well, also, John Trable, he does training for the state comptroller's office, and so does Roy Armstrong. So their presentations are in the state comptroller's training.
And then the chairman of the ARB will visit or train or discuss with the new members what all they missed. Plus, the attorney, Mr. Armstrong, Mr. Mona can bring him in at any time, and he does to do further training.
I was just curious because I thought, wouldn't it have been maybe better to have brought in 3 people that had already served?
Right.
That know what they're doing, because as we heard in this training from most of the members that are there, by the time they finally get what's going on and know what they're doing, it's time for them to term out. So somebody who doesn't even get the training, this day, so I was
We
just
go off of the
curious.
list. We all had a list. We go off of who's next on the list.
So,
The ARB committee had gave me an alternates list of
Yes.
7 people. They put which ones first, second, third, fourth.
That's
remember
how we
that
went.
list, yeah.
That's how we
Yeah.
went.
But I'm thinking maybe in the future, just food for thought, if someone drops off, you.
You might
Well, that would be
prioritize
up to-
that. That would be up to you
Yeah.
That
guys
would be up to
to
the
prioritize
committee.
it when you give us
When
the
you
alternates
go it
list.
again.
Right, that would be the committee.
And it might be something to look at. You
That,
learn.
you know, what?
I learned a
that's-
lot that
It's
day.
just one of the things
was
you
very
might
good.
consider, whoever the
Absolutely.
ARB
Yes.
committee is.
so we got 4 left
Prioritize the list based on past
on the
lists.
reserves.
Oh, well, you guys gave me 7 alternates, so we're
For that. Because
so
we
we're,
normally do 5,
we're on
right?
number 4.
Okay.
Still got 3. Any other questions of Tracy? First, I want to acknowledge Joe Longoria, who's here, who's our attorney. Just behind me, so I won't notice him, but he's still there. And I want to ask a question, and that is, when we appoint people to the ARB, at least 2 of the votes for the people who are on the ARB, 2 out of the 3 have to be elected officials. When we have people resign and we've created this alternate list, does it still have to fall in line with 2 of the 3 of the people who approve have to be elected?
I would agree with that, although the code is not clear on that.
I know,
It,
I read it.
yeah, it's not specific as to how auxiliaries
Right,
or alternates are
right.
appointed. To be consistent, I would strongly
So
suggest.
I want to
2
make
and 3.
sure that we are,
Doing
to the
it
best
correct.
of your knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, that we are complying with that regulation. Because the committee that we have does have 2 of the elected people on that committee, and they created this alternate, they created, oh,
Well, because they can't see
They
who
wanna
we're,
hear you.
well, they can't see who we're talking
I'm
to.
talking to a ghost back there. That'd be me.
Sorry, we didn't have a.
This is our attorney, for those of you who don't know, Joe Longoria.
Yes, to answer your question as to, does the 2 of 3 of the elected members requirement apply when you're replacing
Right.
a sitting ARB member with an alternate? And my belief is that it does, although the code is not specific as to that. In order to have some type of consistency on it, I would suggest that you treat the appointment of alternates in the same manner as you do a sitting, as a fully qualified ARB member.
And the code does not allow for alternates. It's created, we do
created.
that. So the question I have for you is, are we okay with that? Is it all right if we have 7 names of alternates should people drop off? And then do we have to revote them? Do we have to revote them in? I just want to comply. I tried to read that code this afternoon and it's so ambiguous. It's just very difficult on the replacement of already established ARB members.
I still think you would have to have 2 of your 3 replace
We
them
need to
also.
vote on it as a board. is what
Right,
I'm saying.
correct.
So we do need to reaffirm that.
Yes, I would suggest you do that. Once again, because they're ultimately going to be appointed by this board, and once they become a member of the
Exactly.
board, they are to be
Exactly.
treated, I think, just as any other board member, ARB member should be treated.
So where I'm going with this, Tracy, is those 3 names,
We have
you're
to-
bringing them up for inclusion in the ARB. And that is, I guess that'll be a motion from our committee, because they did discuss it from our committee. And so it doesn't require a second,
Right.
but it does allow for discussion. And so my question is everybody okay with that? And and if so, if you have any comments, now is the time to bring them up so that we can vote these 3 people in as substitutes for the 3 that are no
So-
longer there.
It's not agendized.
It's
Well,
not-
it
we
is
can't-
because it's part of the
well,
ARB.
I have a question.
Well, I'm
The
not sure about.
committee, so the ARB committee was the ones that did the hiring.
Right.
Do we as an ARB committee, do we need to convene and hire these people
We are,
and then vote on it?
we really already did that.
You
voted on the
You
alternate.
did that because you
We did
made
that.
these people alternates.
Right.
And you brought it to
I
the
think
board as a
it-
whole.
And the board
and the
accepted them as
approved it.
I think
alternates.
that
We
you
did
just
that.
may need to revote
Why
as a
would you-
board to make them
I
move
need to
them.
ask, I defer to you because I knew about this afternoon. I made a mental note to bring it up to you. I don't know how to handle it because it's never been
Does it
done
need to
before.
be revoted to
So
confirm?
basically, Joe, so when the committee met, and we had the
Interviews.
at least 2 of the
We had 3.
elected, we actually
had
had
3
12
elected.
elected on there. And the committee interviewed, and they appointed
40.
the board, the ARB members, and they appointed 7 alternates. And then they came, we had it agendized, and they came to a full board meeting.
And approved.
And the whole board approved
Right.
the members that needed to be put on, plus the 7
Okay.
alternates.
So
So
we're,
now that we're having people drop out of the appraisal review board, members are dropping out.
And
And we're
using the
going to the
alternates.
alternates. Do we need to then agendize it so they can appoint?
I think
the
so.
alternates?
I think so, because the way it's sitting right now, you have alternates who are not officially members of the ARB. So I think you
Right.
need to agendize that,
Okay.
motion,
That's why-
debate,
We'll do that in May.
and official action at some point. They're kind of like, they're sitting on the bench right now.
Here's my problem. We need them now because these hearings are gonna start. So if we have to wait until May to approve these
Let's
3
do a special
alternates.
board
No.
meeting then.
No, we're okay, we're okay.
You're okay?
Yes,
We can do a
because
special board meeting.
No, but only if we absolutely,
there's
this is
only
why.
3. There's only 3.
You have
And we
42
have-
others.
We have plenty of others, and we won't start full panels until after our board meets in May.
Oh, so you'll be all
We'll
right.
have plenty of panels, so we'll be okay with those 3. One of the reasons why we have so many is so that the chairman can alternate. So for a couple of weeks, if he has to, he just doesn't alternate. Instead of you being on 1 week and off 1 week, he'll just have you on 2 weeks, if that happens. But we have plenty of board members.
So these
because we
3,
won't start
Tracy,
with
have to
full
wait.
panels.
and you already have 2 that are ready. You're just waiting on the background for the 3rd one.
Right.
But all 3 of these have to wait now until May so that
Till
we
we
can
appoint them.
agendize it. So
Yeah.
it can be on our agenda so that we can approve them. This is all new to us
Right.
because all this happened.
Well,
So-
and I hate to say it, but it's probably gonna change again. Because you do know it's up again
I'm only
in
gonna go with what's
session
now. I can't
to
think of
change
what's
it
gonna
to
happen.
145, and they may make more
Anything
changes.
that this board is currently doing, anything that
So-
the CAD is, anyone in the state is currently doing is subject to change,
course.
especially right now because the legislature is in session.
Exactly, and they've
I
already
just
got it
want
in
to
there.
say that when you appoint alternates, and this is to you who are on that ARB subcommittee, that's great. It gives us a pool of people from whom you can choose substitutions. But it doesn't automatically give you the ability, or give us the ability to put them on without agendizing the item and then bringing it up as a motion. So even though you may think of them as alternates, it still needs to go through a process to actually put them on the ARB based on what I read
Even,
today.
even though we already approved the
Even though you
alternates?
already approved the alternates,
'Cause
if
you
you
gotta
want
make
to
them
seat
official.
them.
You have to, in
If you want
effect,
to seat them.
in effect, you're appointing individuals to the ARB, whether they are alternates
Exactly.
or not. You are in effect appointing
I hate
official,
when I-
an official appointment to the ARB
Shouldn't
has to
be
be
a
done
reader,
by
you know.
motion, debate, and official action of the board.
Right,
So I'll put it on the May 16th agenda for the Board of
Is
Directors.
the April
to-
meeting
Why
not a
not
business
8?
meeting at all?
Huh?
April, why not
That's our
April?
budget workshop. So
Can
we're-
you have
we're
a
good.
small, can you have a small business meeting in April that
No.
only takes 5 minutes? That has
No.
So
one
Joe,
item?
No.
next
Okay, no,
year-
the answer's no. I
Joe,
got it. I heard you.
to alleviate this
Someday.
problem next year, Joe, Tanya, I have an
Sorry.
idea, and I have an idea.
Go ahead.
To alleviate this problem next year, Joe, when we appoint the board, the ARB board next year, can we go ahead and appoint the alternates?
No,
So that
because
we
we're
don't have
limited.
to do this?
Ed, you can't because we
No.
have a limitation. as to how many people we put on
You've
the
already set a limit
right.
of members of your ARB.
In reserve?
We can increase the limit,
And
but then you have to pay them.
Yeah, you would, if
I'm
you have
just
a,
gonna tell you.
you have a limit already on your ARB.
I'm trying to
So
think
you
something to go
fill,
around.
so
I
you
know, I
fill
know.
that
I've
basket
read
with
through
all
it.
your ARB members.
Can't.
And if you want to appoint more ARB members, you have to expand the limit.
Right.
No, we don't have the
Ms. York
budget.
is
Yeah, I
right.
have-
I
And we
thought
just
next year
raised
could
them,
be
we just
changed.
raised the
Yeah.
limit because we didn't even get, we.
And I do have one more question.
Yeah.
We don't really, since
should have
we're
told
not
you to make-
officially appointing them, but they still could go in, the alternates, correct, and attend the training
Oh,
as
of course.
alternates.
Yeah.
As an alternate,
As
yes.
an alternate,
Everybody can
yes.
attend the training.
Maybe we'll do that next year, have them attend if
So
they
we'll,
want to.
that's a great idea, Jackie. So next year, we'll invite the alternates to attend the
Because
training,
that way-
even if they're not on the ARB. And then
Because if
we
that
can-
way, if they do, they already have
Great
the
idea.
training. But these ones that are the alternates for this time, these 3 that we're waiting on, they'll still attend on the 8th
Yes.
and the 15th, even though the board don't officially appoint them,
Right,
right?
we can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
The state comptroller training, we have to pay for everyone that attends.
And you'll pay for the
We'll pay
alternates,
Yes,
so they're ready.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I hate to throw that out there, but I just feel
I
like,
was thinking
could
about
me
it all,
actually read the stupid thing.
and that's why I had emailed.
And I was thinking, I
curious.
think are we overthinking this? Or is it that difficult?
Well, that's why I asked, but I think we're not overthinking it. I think we have to
It's,
use.
you have to.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking that you're actually appointing new ARB members,
I'm
whether
sure
they're
this is
considered
happening
alternates or not. There are new ARB members that need to be,
And,
you have to go through
and our
motion.
ruling is up
Action.
to a certain amount of ARB members. So when they resign, it's
Five, I
not
think
like
it
we're
was.
all, it's up to that number.
Yeah,
So when we're
45.
37, we're still in compliance, even though there's only 37 instead of 40.
When it was with the judge just
It didn't
approved
matter.
everybody. It didn't
It
matter.
didn't
So
matter.
the judge approved
It didn't matter.
the main list and then an alternate list. It was already approved by the judge. So, but now because
This is the
of
new way we
changes-
have to do this.
We're the
here.
new judge.
Yeah.
Well, this
Correct.
is the new way it has to be done. And
Subject
I
to
didn't mean
the
ask, I
Open
didn't know Joe
Meetings
was gonna
Act,
be here.
posting requirements, when it was the admin judge, if there was a vacancy or a departure of an ARB member, the judge was informed of it, and boom, he could appoint somebody on his own timeline.
So just know for the future, when there is a vacancy in the ARB, agendize at the next meeting the replacement of that
Yes,
ARB
right.
member. And then
Yes.
once it's on the agenda, then we can do it.
Right away.
All right, anything else? Thank you, Joe.
Can we approve them pending passing of, because they have to go through a background check? Can the board of directors approve an alternate
I would,
pending that, or do we have to wait till the process is done?
I would not do that, because I don't think that's a final action when you're approving somebody pending the outcome of some
The background
future
check,
event.
okay.
Yes, I would not
It's too
suggest
ambiguous.
that.
That's good to know.
You could be called on.
I just want to make sure we cover everything.
I don't think, honestly, guys, I don't think, it's just if somebody wants to nitpick us, we could get nitpicked here.
Correct.
And that's
correct.
the reason I really want to stay above.
Obviously, somebody was thinking about it, that's why they snuck it into the
Especially somebody who
legislation.
wanted to be on the ARB and whatever reason.
They did. Good night.
Any other questions of Tracy or Joe or anybody? All right. Thank you, Joe. We
Thank you all.
appreciate you. Again, Joe, you're a great guy. We appreciate you. Okay, Dinah, it's all yours.
Okay, real quickly, I just want to give you an update. You know how we have the property value study that we came in and told you that we passed all the 9 school districts, we're in confidence level. Well, we also have a methods and procedures review that the comptroller does. The reviewer was here last week and met with our staff, James Thompson's staff. Beatrice Medina is the manager of that department. They met with her, they took her around, gave her all the information she wanted. We had a very positive result from her. We will not get anything official until they're finished. She's finished with all of her work. And she handles several appraisal districts, not just, we're the furthest one, be surprise, surprise. She did not like the sandstorm. She was ready to go back to Brownwood.
She
Is that
was here
what-
during that time?
Brownwood, Texas
my
is
God.
where she's from. So this was new to her.
She saw Brownwood.
She saw, yeah.
It went right by us, so we saw Brownwood.
But we had a very positive meeting with her. All the information she requested, we gave to her. There was a couple of recommendations that we've already fulfilled, so we feel pretty confident. We had a good meeting. Once we get the final results, I'll bring it to the board, agendize it like I did the property value study, so we can go over it. A reminder, April 17th is our next board meeting. It's strictly a workshop. We'll have some little, sandwiches to munch on so we can do that. So y'all have all received your budgets. We sent it out, we have to send it to all of the entities, the draft budget, the preliminary budget, before the 15th, so it went out on the 14th. If you need a hard copy, please let us know afterwards and we'll get you
I
a hard
think
copy.
they all have.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
here.
yeah. But, whatever you need from us, any questions that you may have, feel free to notify myself, David, Rosa. We can get the answers back to you. If you're going to email us, remember, don't include everybody. Just email it, and then we'll email responses back individually. We are working on a CAD email address for every board member, so it won't be tied into your own personal email address. We're working on that. We should have that done shortly. We're working with Microsoft. We're finalizing the issues with that. So you'll have a board of directors EPCAD email address that everything that we send can go through that at the same But again, still, we don't want to do it all together. It'll be separate. So that's being worked on. April 4th, notices are going out. First batch, it'll be mostly residential. Be a large batch will be going out to the public, to the property owners. And the last thing is Danny Bentley, who you met, that was here, and our manager of our deeds and exemptions. He and I are part of a presentation tomorrow at the Borderplex Veterans and Family Caregiver Expo. So we'll be doing that tomorrow afternoon. So, yeah.
Where's that
Nice.
It's an expo. It's the Family Caregiver Expo. It's going to be at the Region 19, what do they call it? Starlight or whatever they call it?
real nice.
Starlight Event.
Starlight Event Center. Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Coronado, there. So we'll be doing that. And of course, David, myself, Jimmy, and Rick will be visiting all the taxing entities starting the 1st of April to give them some preliminary numbers and visit with them. And that's all I have.
Any questions? Yes.
Our next month's meeting, it's on the budget. Is it a public meeting?
It is a public meeting, but it is not.
It's not a formal
It's not
meeting.
an agendized meeting.
Are they taped, will they tape it?
No, sir. No, sir. But anybody in the public that,
Okay.
whenever we meet as a quorum, which we would have a quorum,
Sure.
it has to be open, but we don't record it. We don't. It's
No
not
motions can
YouTube.
be made.
No
It's not a
motions.
formal-
It's strictly
It's a work,
right. It's a workshop.
we don't decide anything.
Correct. Right. No decisions. No. Nothing vote on.
But you need to
Yeah,
be
no
there
action.
because we're going to be talking about the budget, so you'll have a better understanding of
I
what.
plan on being there.
Good. Yeah, it's just a workshop. We don't have to.
And it'll last a couple hours.
An hour,
It's whatever y'all want.
generally.
Whatever
an hour.
y'all want. It's whatever you're comfortable with in going over the budget. Y'all have it in plenty of,
Last year, about an
review.
hour. Takes
Last year was
time.
about a little over an hour and 15, I think.
Any questions of Dinah? Yes, sir.
I want to join Diane for tomorrow. I'll be part of that
Oh,
panel.
yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Very good.
Our county
Ruben
tax
will be with
assessor,
you.
yes, he's on the panel with me.
We'll be
Thank you
there.
for reminding me.
Any other questions of Dinah? I want to say a few things. First of all, thank you all for being here. I've been here where we couldn't get a quorum together, Ed knows, and Jackie knows. And so we're all here. This is how it should be. You've committed yourself to being here.
Yeah.
We're representing the community. So when you come to these things, I mean, this is what you signed up for. And the reality is, we need you. We really need you, not just for a quorum, but your input's invaluable. And so when you're here, Alfred, I mean, it's good for all of us. And so we appreciate all of you being here. We appreciate that we didn't have to look for one, and that we're all here together as a family. Second thing is, you had confidentiality agreements, and you had conflict of interest disclosures. Have you all signed them? Do we have everybody?
Except I guess I was missing one. I didn't realize I
You
missed
get it.
one.
And
I
so-
have it here.
Okay, then please sign it so that everybody has it. You're about to, you have the budget in front of you. This is not a passed budget. We have not passed this budget. When we pass it, it becomes public knowledge. It becomes public. I mean, it is part of that non-disclosure. This is your privy information for the time being. When we pass it, it then becomes public information and it's done, but it's not been passed. So there may be items in here that we may or may not want to include. So I don't want this to become public yet until it becomes approved by this board.
Officially, yep.
So I'm just letting you know this, you signed a confidentiality agreement. This is why, because of things like this. So, and again, I thank the staff and the people who work here day in and day out for what they do.
Well, thank you, board. I know the meeting a little bit longer, but thank
Sorry
you so
we ran
much.
much
to
You know,
all
it was very
the
knowledgeable.
staff.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed the meeting.
If anybody wants a copy of the presentation
I
that we
do,
did
I
today,
do.
I'll be happy to.
Oh,
get it.
sure.
Yeah.
I would really like that electronically. If you
We'll
could
just
send
give
it.
it to everybody.
That's good.
Okay.
All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Adjourned.
Second.
Second.
We adjourned exactly at, looks like 6:40. 6:40, is that right? 6:40 exactly. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next month and we'll discuss budget.
Good meeting.